In March 1922, 6 people were murdered on a farm in rural Bavaria. The farm was called Hinterkaifeck. It no longer exists. The site was demolished in 1923. The land was sold. No memorial was ever built. The name itself was removed from regional maps within a decade. What makes Hinterkaifeck different from the other unsolved murders of that era is not the violence, it's the timeline. Days before the murders, the family reported hearing footsteps in the attic, found unfamiliar footprints in the snow leading to the farm, but none leading away. The day before they were killed, Andreas Gruber, the patriarch, told a neighbor he had found a Munich newspaper on his property. He had no subscription. He didn't know where it came from. He was dead the next day. The killer, whoever they were, lived on that farm. Not just before the murders, after them. The bodies were found 4 days later because neighbors noticed the mail was piling up. But before that, during those 4 days, the farm was still running. Animal crates had been moved and cleaned. The cattle had been fed. Smoke had been coming from the chimney. A neighbor who visited to check reported seeing someone in the barn. Someone lived in that house with 6 bodies in the barn for 4 days. The murders were never solved. The killer was never found. There are no suspects. Standard true crime coverage stops here. I'm not going to stop here, because when I cross-reference the date of the murders with material from the consensus drive, I found something that changes the entire frame. Inside the consensus drive is a monitoring report dated March 19, 22. The site is listed as Hinterkaifeck. The status is listed as, and I want to read this exactly, pre-formation, accumulation stage active. Do not intervene. Do not intervene. That phrase appears 14 times in the documents I've read. Every time it appears, something terrible happened at that location before or after the report was filed. Hinterkaifeck is the earliest instance. The report is dated 2 weeks before the murders. The report describes what it calls a resonance node, a naturally occurring formation, something that generates a specific kind of signal, below ground. The language is careful. It doesn't say what the signal does. It doesn't explain why S.C.R.A. was monitoring it. But it does say one thing clearly. The signal had been accumulating since at least 1919. 3 years. Building under that farm for 3 years before the family was killed. I don't know what connection there is between the signal and what happened. The report doesn't say, but the monitoring team was close enough to log the event. And their instruction was to watch, not to help. When I first found this drive, I assumed S.C.R.A. was a Cold War organization. The secrecy, the monitoring network, the classified language, all of it pointed to something built in the 1950s or 60s. Then I found the Hinterkaifeck report. The monitoring report is dated 1922. The site closure report, filed after the murders, is dated 1923. And the organization listed on both documents is the same acronym, same letterhead, same filing system. S.C.R.A. was operational in 1922. That is, before the Cold War by 30 years. Before the CIA by 25 years. Before most of the intelligence infrastructure we know about even existed. The Hinterkaifeck site closure report notes that monitoring of the area was suspended because, again, quoting exactly, node dissipation confirmed. Pre-formation activity ceased. Estimated cycle, 60 to 80 years before reaccumulation. I checked. 60 to 80 years after 1922 lands us between 1982 and 2002. I don't know what happened in that window. Yet. Hinterkaifeck is not an isolated case. I've been mapping every location referenced in the consensus documents with coordinates. This is what the map looks like so far. I'm not going to label everything yet, but I want you to see the pattern. There is more than one Hinterkaifeck. I have the list. The case was never solved. The site was monitored for 3 years before the murders. The monitoring team's instruction was to not intervene. S.C.R.A. existed in 1922. The signal originates underground. Those are the facts as I have them. I'll be back when I have